What made you lose respect for someone? Me, a close friend of mine, a mutual friend, and some people he brought with him went on a short vacation, renting out an Airbnb. My one friend, whom I was closest with, invited a few girls over with the hope of having sex with one. He's in a relationship. Not only this, but he was a complete asshole, saying some really demeaning shit to the friends our third friend brought with him. These guys were my friend's longtime homies who he invited to come with us, only to get treated like this. This trip pretty much ruined the relationship between my closest friend and our third mutual friend, and though he's been an asshole in the past, it was nothing like this. I'm concerned for him because he's been diet of going down this path for a while, but I can't say he didn't really piss me off too. Don't think he's told his girlfriend the truth either. They made racist comments. Sometimes people use respect to mean treating someone like a person, and sometimes they use respect to mean treating someone like an authority. And sometimes people who are used to being treated like an authority say, if you won't respect me, I won't respect you, and they mean if you won't treat me like an authority, I won't treat you like a person. And they think they're being fair, but they aren't, and it's not okay. When she started defending a borderline rapist who also happened to be a pedo, making transphobic comments in a local FB group. This is about my respect for myself. I had a crush on this girl in high school and never said anything to anyone. I finally confessed to her a few days from the end of school, not in person though, didn't like me back, which was no surprise at all, and so I moved on. Or so it seemed to me. A few years later, I have this fake account on a certain social media platform, mainly used for memes and well, NSFW content. That's when I try to contact her again, this time anonymously. What's worse is that I also tried to talk to a couple of her friends. Anyways, I only stopped because I found out they suspected it was me, through a third party. I realized then that I was being a fucking creep and I was borderline harassing those girls, who are very decent people BTW. I never forgave myself for that AMD. I wish there was a way they could forgive as well. Lost every self-respect I had that day. I was really ashamed. Those who refuse to get themselves or their children vaccinated. Someone I really respected for their humanitarian work made fun of someone for admitting their suicidal thoughts and mental illness. My mother told me she was still a virgin. She had 3 children and 1 miscarriage at this point. I knew she had lied to me before, but just about the kid stuff like Tooth Fairy and Easter Bunny. But this. I was 15. I had way more than enough sex education at school to know better. She was the one who signed the permission slips for me to attend sex ed. And we were in a state that taught everything, not just abstinence. And she knew this because she would ask me what we learned. My mother has always struggled with her mental health, so I granted her grace many times over, as did most of our family. Unfortunately, her illness leads her to hoard anything and everything, including animals. A few years ago my father's health took a turn for the worst. The fact that my mom had 24 cats in their little house didn't help anything. Getting to my point. My mom began refusing to buy my father's life-saving prescriptions because she wouldn't have enough money left over for her cat's food and litter. All feelings gone. Really funny guy in our school. Goofy, polite to authority, semi-nice popular kid who's gonna join the military after high school. Everyone loves him. An ex of mine and now close friend dated him, and I found out about a year after they broke up he abused the hell out of her. Physically and verbally. Kicked her as part of some game and cussed her out non-stop. It takes me serious mental effort not to fight him when I see him. The company I work for made some redundancies at the beginning of the year. One of my co-workers kept listing all the people that should be made redundant. This person should go because they don't have a mortgage, this person because they inherited money, this person because they still live at home with their parents, etc. Throughout the whole process she was absolutely horrible about people she's worked with for about 10 years. She showed her true colors and I hardly speak to her now. 2 young women I worked with, both hit me. Proper punch to the arm. They seemed to think it was okay and playful and an appropriate interaction. It was instant death for friendship growth. One of them said, "You can't hit me back, I'm a girl, you'll get in more trouble than me," and that was instant death for our friendship. I don't do violence. My now ex-best friend called me one day to catch up on life, and she told me that she had been thinking about cheating on her fiancé with this girl she had worked with for a few months, who had already told her she had no interest in her. Her fiancé was also out on the road driving a semi-truck to make money for their wedding. Stopped being friends soon after that. I still feel bad for the poor fiancé. Honestly? They disrespected my ma and my brothers. People who you're falling out of friendship with, and then they intentionally stir up more shit on the way out. Failure to introspect. John Cena bowing to China. I had a friend who was a detox therapist. She started sleeping with a detox client at her job. Didn't look at her the same after that. One day in 2010, 23-year-old me watched a 30-year-old man attempt to cry and beg to get out of paying full price for getting his car worked on and pay later. Never paid though. I still kicked it with him from time to time, but nothing like before. Wish I had got away from his ass that day. I had a best friend when I was 15, and he would come and play games at my house. He would also hit on my little sister every time. She was 13, but my sister didn't like him. I didn't mind at first because he's a good-looking guy, and he mostly would say like, "Let's go on a date" to my sis, so no big deal, until one day he went too far and hugged my sister from behind. My sister screamed and I told him to let go of her. He did. Then I pushed him expecting him to fight, but he just seemed surprised and said sorry. I kicked him out and told him he can't come to my house again. I barely hang with him afterwards. Turns out he was one of those dudes that hit on every girl he sees and is very creepy sometimes. When they casually called someone a retard. When my new co-worker told me they had 2 uppy allegations against him and that he was innocent, at the same time making sexually inappropriate comments about a female co-worker. When my married friend thought I'd be amused to hear that he had accidentally sent a dick pic to a female co-worker instead of the internet stranger he had been sexting. Reader, I was not amused. Finding out that they were a gossiper. Most people who gossip do it to everyone, so I expect them to tell other people the stuff I tell them. This specific person only gossiped about me to others, never to me. I lost respect and now hate a family. They believe it's okay for a boy to force himself on his girlfriend, her 15, him 16, she pressed charges. They all agreed that at that age it's normal for it to happen. And recently offered, almost tried to force her, same 15-year-old girl, to drink alcohol. If they weren't her uncle, aunt and grandparents, I'd be in prison. Fuck them. Anyone who would bully or harass anyone for enjoying something. My sister would make fun of my 3-year-old brother for enjoying something that shiz doesn't like. And my ex would constantly bully and make fun of people for the same reason. Now I will admit that I used to do something similar, but I've realized that what they do does not affect me at all, so I hate them. This is along the same lines as being homophobic or racist. Why hate other people for something that does not affect you at all? They aren't hurting you, so just stop. Back when I was 16 to 17, I had a friend that had a car at this age and eventually became somewhat my best friend. We both really liked cars and he had one we could work on. He always talked about making road trips and being free and having the liberty to go anywhere. He said all those things, but when it came to actually doing them, he was always extremely doubtful and it all came back to money. But he had a nice job paying over minimum wage at 17. We did a lot of work on his car and always cruised around, but he always wanted to stay in our hometown because he didn't want to pay gas. But he would end up having to pay for gas anyways because we just went in circles in our town doing hundreds of miles while not going anywhere. Pretty much every time he filled up that I was with him, I gave him half the money he paid to fill up. I would frequently buy his food when we stopped at drive-thrus and stuff, blaming it on him having to carry me around. I never said anything. When I got my car at 18 and I wanted to do stuff and didn't mind the mileage on my car and having to pay for gas, I expected him to at least help me out a bit with the gas if we went on longer road trips. but he always ended up saying that he spent a lot of money on gas when I didn't have a car. This guy was so nice except when it came to money. Wish he was a little bit different, he could have been such a good friend.